can be. You did it.
Good, you all did it.
Hi, kids.
Hi.
Let's see how much fun trains can be, and together we will learn more about them. Watch and see how much you already know.
Hey.
All aboard! All aboard is what the conductor says just before the train leaves the station, right on schedule.
That's a big train. It's a big train. Amtrak. Amtrak.
Amtrak is the largest passenger-carrying railroad company in North America. There are lots of trains that travel to and from lots of places in America.
America. We're on a train.
Above the rivers, or whatever it's crossing, the train crosses over what is below using a bridge.
Above. Above. Below. B.
Below is the river. Above, the train is crossing the
Bridge.
Very good. Bridges help trains cross rivers, canyons, lakes, and bays. Trains can go over
the bridge.
or under the bridges.
Under the bridges.
This train is going
Over the bridge. Over the bridge.
and this train is going.
Under the bridge. Under the bridge.
That's right. Wow, you guys are really smart.
Brakeman.
The brakeman is the very important member of the railroad team of workers who takes care of the brakes and makes sure that all the lines are connected between the cars. Brakes are very important because they stop the train. The brakeman makes up part of the team of railroad workers that keeps the train traveling safely down the tracks.
C.
Tickets, please. Tickets.
The conductor is another very important member of the railroad team of workers.
Skokie Valley route to Winthrop Harbor via Skokie, Racine, Kenosha, Zion, North Chicago Junction, Waukegan. Tickets, please.
Conductor.
The conductor is the team member of the railroad who makes sure that the trains run on time. He takes care of the passengers, and he is the important member of the team who says, "All aboard." The conductor is like the captain of the train. He is the boss. The coupling is where the train cars are connected together. It's kind of like each car is holding hands with one another, but a little more complicated.
Coupling.
Does anybody recognize this danger sign?
Railroad crossing. Railroad crossing.
That's right. This is the sign that you see that alerts you and your family that there is a railroad crossing in the road. We always stop, look, and listen at a railroad crossing.
The lights are flashing. Here comes another one. Don't cross the tracks now.
Sometimes there are flashing lights and gates that come down to guard you from the dangers of the train coming. Never go around the gates or near the tracks or try to cross when the lights are flashing. It is extremely dangerous.
D. 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 Danger. Danger.
That's very good. You should recognize danger. It is important to know what this word looks like. If you see danger, getting anywhere close could hurt you. Does anyone know what kind of locomotive this is?
Diesel. Diesel.
Great job! Yes, this locomotive has a diesel-powered engine.
One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7. Look at how they diesel. There's 3 red diesels. Cool.
Diesel engines are now used more often than old-fashioned steam-powered engines.
Steam engine.
They cause less air pollution and use diesel fuel instead of coal, which is very expensive. Their engines are more efficient. Diesel engines look very different from steam engines. Can you see what is different between these two engines?
One square and one circle. One square and one has circle. A smokestack and one doesn't.
Very good. Now, do you see anything that is the same about these two different types of engines?
They have headlights, they have windows, they have taillights, they have wheels.
Can you tell which one of these 4 is a different kind of locomotive?
Blue diesel. Blue diesel.
Yes, the blue one is a diesel engine and the others are steam locomotives. Here's another one. Which one of these are the same and which one is different?
The wet one. Red diesel.
Very good. You know that all the engines are diesels, but that 3 of them are painted green and are coming out of a tunnel. The 4th engine is painted red and there is no tunnel.
There's no tunnel.
How about these 2 engines? Are they the same or different?
Same. It's the same.
That's right. Except for their different numbers, these 2 steam engines look the same. This could be called a double-engined train.
Double-engine train.
When there are 2 things just the same, right next to each other, they can be called double.
Double.
These cars are called double stacks because there are 2 boxes, one right on top of the other.
Double stack.
The dispatcher keeps track of all the trains. This is where the dispatcher controls the railway.
Dispatcher.
It's his job to keep the train safely going down the tracks without running into each other. The dispatcher uses computer screens to keep track of where every train is.
Look at all those computers.
The dispatchers in this room control the whole CSX railroad. This train in Indiana is being controlled by the dispatcher several hundred miles away in Florida.
E. Engineer.
The engineer is a key player on the railroad's team of workers. He keeps in touch with the dispatcher and makes sure all systems are go when driving the train to its destination. The engineer has to read the signals and make decisions with good judgment. This is a very responsible job, and he is an important member of the team which helps the train to travel safely. Where's the engineer?
There's the engineer. Train is going up the mountain tracks.
Engines are what makes the trains move down the tracks.
Engine.
We have seen two different kinds of engines so far. The diesel-powered engine and the steam-powered engine. Well, another different kind of engine commonly used today in America is the electric engine.
There's an electric train.
The electric engine or train car uses wires that connect electricity to power its engine instead of steam power or diesel power. Electric cars like these are very efficient, but are usually only used in big cities or between big cities where there are wires over the tracks so that they can stay connected for their power. Can you see the wires?
Wires. Up there. There's the wires. Up there. F.
This train is really moving fast.
Fast.
Here are some other trains that are going fast.
I'm going fast. Fast. That's fast.
Here in America, one of the fastest trains is the Southwest Chief. Here we are going 90 miles an hour. Wow!
Wow.
Steam engines also went fast.
Fireman. Look at the fire.
On many steam engines, the firemen added coal to the engine to keep the fire very strong so that the water boiled and enough steam was created to power the engine.
Fireman.
This is a freight train.
Freight train.
It carries no passengers, but is very important. All kinds of cars carry freight. The freight could be different things that we use or buy at the store, or really big things like materials used to build houses. The different cars bring goods to us all across America.
Freight train.
We will learn more about different kinds of cars that carry freight later on in this program.
Look at all the cars. G.
As this train is coming near, we can see that it is a passenger train. Lots of people love to ride on trains. Generations of families have enjoyed train rides together for over 100 years. Moms, dads, grandmothers, grandfathers, and boys and girls can all enjoy train rides. Some of your grandfathers may have worked on the railroad many years ago.
Grandfather.
They have many stories to tell about the excitement of running trains across America. Generations can also enjoy trains together and never leave home. This family has their own model railroad in their backyard. This is called a garden railroad, and it's lots of fun for the whole family to enjoy. This layout is G gauge.
G gauge.
Gauge is a name used to tell the size of the model train and its track width. There are many different sizes of gauges of model trains.
Look at all the trains.
Let's take a look at some of the different gauges that there are, from the smallest to the biggest. There's Z gauge, N, HO, S, O, standard, and of course G.
Gauge.
Real trains have different gauges too. Most are called standard gauge, but some have tracks closer together and are called narrow gauge. See the narrow gauge track inside the standard gauge track?
Narrow gauge. H.
What is this called?
Headlight. Headlight.
That's right. This is the headlight. The headlight is always on all train engines. This is for many reasons, but all of them are for safety. It makes the train easier to see in the daylight from very far away. It's difficult to tell how far away a train is, but you know that it's coming if you see the headlight. At night, of course, the engineer needs the headlight to see the track in front of him as far as possible to make sure that it's clear down the track.
There's a headlight.
The headlight allows the engineer to see farther at night. When the engineer stops the train, what does he turn to put on the brakes?
Handle.
That's right, he turns the brake handle. Even though it's the engineer and the locomotive who stops the train, each car has its own handbrake that is sometimes used to keep the car stopped.
Handbrake.
The stories your grandfather might tell you are a part of our history.
History.
History is a story about something that has happened a long time ago, last week, or even yesterday. If it has passed, then it is history.
History.
Over 150 years ago, now that's a long, long time ago, trains and their tracks were first being built and put together. It took a lot of dedicated people and a lot of time. The first engine to haul passengers was called the locomotion.
Locomotion.
The locomotion hauled the fastest passenger train of its time, but it only went 20 miles an hour.
That's slow.
It had open cars for its passengers, and they all got full of smoke when they rode it.
That wasn't fun.
This is part of our railroad history. Now we're going into the 21st century.
I.
Passenger trains in America now go 90, 100, 110 miles an hour, or even faster. They bring passengers into cities and out of cities.
And out of cities.
Into tunnels
Into tunnels.
and out of tunnels.
And out of tunnels.
Which way is this train going?
In.
Right. And which way is this one going?
Out. Out. Out.
Right again. Boy, you really know the ins and outs of train tunnels, don't you?
Yeah.
Another train that your grandfather might tell you about is the interurban. Interurbans are big trolley cars that used to run between cities. The word interurban actually means between cities.
Interurban train. J.
When people want to go somewhere, the journey is how they get there. These people are on a journey by train. This is called a junction. It is where two or more railroad tracks meet or go together or cross each other.
Junction. Junction. Two tracks cross each other. Did you see that? K. K.
Kids of all ages love trains. And some grown-ups are just kids at heart.
Kids.
Sometimes, even when we're grown up, we like to do things that kids like to do. Why not?
Why not?
If kids had all the fun, what would we have to look forward to when we grow up?
That looks like fun. That's a neat train.
Another K word is kitchen. Many trains that carry passengers have kitchens. Trains can have kitchens to cook for the passengers who eat in the dining car. Today, the passengers get to enjoy the food from the rolling kitchen in the dining car.
Kitchen. L. L.
L is for luggage. The car attendant on the train might help you with your luggage if you are a passenger on that train.
Luggage.
Luggage is sometimes also called baggage.
Baggage.
That's why it's put on board the baggage car of a passenger train. Passenger trains do not pull any freight cars. Freight trains and their cars carry all different kinds of loads.
Loads. Loads. Loads.
Here on these freight trains we find each car with its load. These hopper cars have a load of coal. These box cars are carrying a load of toys. These rail cars are loaded with timber logs. These tanker cars are loaded with oil. Who remembers what this is called? It's an L word and we've already heard it in this video.
Locomotion.
That's it! Remember, the locomotion was built so long ago that it had open cars and people got smoke all over them when they rode it?
Yeah.
Well, slowly over the years, some important people with good imaginations, just like you, kept working on a way that people could ride more comfortably on a passenger train. Now, passengers can ride on cushiony seats, be cool in the summer, and warm in the winter. The cars are now modern.
Modern. Modern. M.
An especially interesting train is like this one that travels on only one rail. It's called a monorail. This train is called a monorail, and it takes people to downtown Seattle. Monorail. The word means one rail.
Monorail. Monorail.
This train is tunneling under a what?
Mountain. Mountain.
Right. You are pretty good at this. Mountains are all across America. When the railroads were being built, the hard-working men had to go through mountain ranges and lay the track. The railroad builders' hard work and dedication is how trains of today can cross our nation from coast to coast.
Nation. N. N.
Many trains pass through nature. Riding by train today is a great way to see nature at its best. Railroads run through many places in nature that only those who ride the train will see. The first engine on this train is new. New locomotives have been in production for over 150 years. Of course, now they are bigger and more powerful than they used to be.
New diesel.
Many different trains and engines have been built over the years. Engines can sometimes be identified by their whistles, the number of wheels the engine has, and by the number that is printed on the side. No matter what kind of engine, whether it's a steam locomotive or a diesel or electric engine, it has a number on it which is used to identify it, kind of like a name.
Number.
This locomotive is known as number 1630. It has been completely restored and is in working condition today.
1630.
That was pretty good. Now we're going to look at a lot more trains so you can help say the numbers. Look closely because some are harder to see than others.
587. 96. 96. 121. 121. 914. 611. 72. 72. 6936. 2. 1374. 7. 7. 5. 5. 757. 714. 160. Oh.
Some old trains are in parks for everyone to see. Some old streetcars,
Trolley.
steam engines, cabooses, diesels, and other cars have been restored on the inside and out so that they can be visited at museums, parks, and train stations across the country. Restoring makes old things look nice again, just like they did when they were new. These people are getting on this passenger train. These people are getting off of this train.
On. Off. Off.
We have observed these passengers getting on and off their trains. Observed is a word that describes looking at something closely. There is a special railroad car for observing on a train ride. It's called the observation car. It has lots of windows so you can see everything around you as you travel.
Observation.
Like we've mentioned before, the people in the observation car on this train are called passengers.
P.
Passengers are people who have paid for a ticket to ride on the train. Some passengers ride for pleasure, while some ride on trains to get to work. Being a passenger on a train is really fun. We have seen lots of passengers riding on trains and have learned about the history of passenger trains just a few minutes ago.
Passengers.
These passengers are waiting on the platform to board their train.
Platform.
This is a very busy platform at a station near Chicago where thousands of passengers travel through every day on their way to and from work. Safety is always in mind as everyone is careful not to push anyone else. The platform could be a dangerous place if passengers aren't careful. Always play it safe around trains and their tracks.
Be careful.
Train engines must do lots of pushing and pulling.
It's pulling.
This engine pulls its freight cars out of the yard after they have been coupled. Most engines we see are pulling their cars. What is this steam engine doing?
Pushing.
And what is this diesel engine doing?
Pulling.
Very good. Sometimes trains can have engines both pulling and pushing.
Pulling. Pushing. I hear a train coming right now. Me too. There's number 497. Wow. Tinker cars. Another steam engine. There's number 484. There's a caboose. 2.
When we see trains, sometimes they are going slowly, and sometimes they are going quickly. Quickly is kind of like speedy or fast.
Quickly.
Quickly is how we should safely cross railroad tracks after we stop, look, and listen. We should cross quickly and carefully. Never play around railroad crossings or tracks. Quickly moving trains are cool, but they can be dangerous too. What letters do you see on this sign?
R. R.
What does this sign stand for? Can anyone tell me?
Railroad crossing. Railroad crossing.
That's very good. The railroad got its name because the trains ride on rails.
Rail.
The rails must be the same distance or gauge apart and be kept sturdily in place with wooden or concrete ties.
Rail.
The rails and ties make up the track, and spikes are driven in to hold it all down. The railroad connects cities all across America and stops at railroad stations to pick up or drop off its passengers.
S.
Stations are where passengers get their tickets and wait for their train to come.
Station.
Some stations are big
Station.
and some stations are small.
Station.
They usually have seats where you can wait for your train, and they usually have a board that lists the schedule for the trains.
Schedule. Schedule.
A schedule is the timetable for the trains to run efficiently on their tracks. A computer helps the dispatcher keep the trains running on schedule. This is a very important job because in many places there is only one track. This means that switches are needed to keep the trains from running into one another. Sometimes you might see a railroader riding on the side of a train. Never ever try to do this yourself because you could get hurt. This is only for grown-up railroaders to do. This railroader is a switchman who in some railroad yards helps the train go through the switches.
Switch. Turn or shake.
The engine's turning.
Sometimes one train is kept on the side while another one passes. This piece of track is called a siding.
One train's going by the other one.
Siding.
Switches and sidings are one way trains run safely, but another important S word is signal.
There's the signal by the hand. Signal. Signal.
We already know about crossing signals, but there are other signals that are warning lights and signs that show the engineer when to stop and when to go. There are red, yellow, and green lights and semaphores that have different positions showing when to go, slow down, or stop. If there is an emergency ahead, a signal will show the engineer that he has to change his speed. We have talked about railroad safety in this video, and I hope that you know how important it really is.
Safety.
Who can remember some railroad safety rules?
Stop, look, and listen.
Stay away from moving trains.
Wow, that's a good one. Stay away from moving trains. That's right. We should never go near a moving train or throw anything at one. A rock could go through a window and hurt a passenger or even the engineer. Never place anything on the railroad track. This could cause an accident. Never play around a train that is not moving either. It could move at any second. It's just not safe. Safety around trains and railroad tracks is so very important. I know you will all practice safety when you are around trains, won't you?
Yeah!
Now we've made it to the S word that you've been waiting for, steam. Everyone likes steam locomotives. They are so interesting because they come in all shapes and sizes.
Steam.
Here comes the steam engine. big wheels. They're spinning around. T.
We've already talked about some great T words earlier in this video. Of course, there is our favorite T word.
Train. Train.
That's right. Train begins with a T. Very good. We've also talked about track and tunnels. Do you remember the trains going into and out of the tunnels?
Yeah.
Well, there are many other great words related to the railroad that begin with a T. Who can tell me what this is called? Remember, it starts with a T sound.
Trolley. Trolley.
That's right, it's a trolley. Trolley cars are used in some cities in America and mostly for transportation within the city. They are used by some people to go to and from work, by some to go shopping, and by some who are just visiting the city and want to go for a train ride. Sometimes trolleys are called streetcars. Can you see why?
It's on the street.
There are lots more T words, and some of them you may be able to name as we show you some pictures. Track,
Track.
tender,
Tender.
turntable,
Turntable.
tanker,
Tanker.
tunnel,
Tunnel.
trestle,
Whistle.
ticket taker,
Ticket taker.
tie,
Tie.
and of course, train.
Train.
Wow, you knew a lot of those words. Did you recognize the words at the bottom?
I did.
Let's look a little more closely at this T word. This is a turntable. This is how the train sometimes turns around at the end of the line or at the railroad yard to pull or push the cars. They aren't used as much as they used to be, but some railroad yards still have turntables. They are sure fun to watch.
Turntable. You.
Is this train going over the bridge?
Under the bridge. Under the bridge.
That's right. This train is going under the bridge, not over. This steam engine needs water to boil and is going under the spout to fill up its tender. Remember, the steam locomotive needs the fireman to keep the coal burning to boil the water that makes the steam to power the engine. Without the water, there would be no steam.
It's under the water spout.
Here is something interesting that we have never seen and that we may never see in our lives. It's what a train car looks like from underneath. Since it's not safe to go under a car ourselves, we've sent our camera to show us. This train is going through a valley. Valleys are a place between mountains or hills.
V.
Valleys are beautiful and sometimes get more rain than the surrounding mountains, so the area is very green and full of life. You know, a valley would be a nice place to visit on your vacation. Another V word is vestibule. The vestibule is the part of the train car with the doors where you get on and off.
W.
Listen. That's the whistle of a steam locomotive.
Whistle.
This is the whistle of the diesel locomotive. On a diesel, the whistle can also be called the horn.
Horn.
Whistle.
Here's some more cool whistle sounds from some of the different trains that we've seen. Can you tell me what kind of trains that they are?
That's a diesel whistle. Interurban whistle.
X.
Well, we see this letter at almost every railroad crossing, don't we? It comes after W and has two lines that intersect one another. Do you see it now?
Railroad crossing.
That's right. You know that there is danger when you see this sign. You are a very important part of railroad safety. You can tell your friends and moms and dads all about safety around railroad tracks. You can make a difference and help watch for the trains.
Y.
This is a railroad yard. It is where the freight trains get the cars that they'll be pulling across America or just to the next town.
Yard.
This and every big yard is run by a yard master who knows every detail of which cars go where.
Yard master.
He too must stay on schedule. He is also a very important part of the railroad team of workers. It takes a whole team to make a system work properly. Teamwork is about cooperation and getting along. That's what gets the best performance out of every member of the team. If the railroad team of workers didn't work together, the railroad system would not run smoothly. Teamwork. It's working together for the same goal.
Z.
Another important team that works together towards the same goal is the team of circus performers who travel with the circus. The circus performers and animals travel by train from city to city. Here are some G-gauge models of circus trains.
That's a circus train. That's a giraffe.
This model train goes by a zoo.
Zoo, 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 zoo.
Did anyone see a zebra?
Zebra.
Zebra is another Z word, isn't it? Don't you usually see one at the end of your alphabet books?
Yeah.
This is a real zoo train.
Rabbit.
This train goes around the whole zoo. You can see all the animals in their natural settings and habitats created by the Omaha Zoo. There are all kinds of animals in this zoo. Let's watch and see how many animals we can recognize and name.
Elephant.
Elephant.
Elephant. Giraffe. 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 I just saw one.
Ostrich.
Ostrich.
Giraffe.
Ostrich.
Wow, that was great. You really know your animals and your trains. This is our final Z train. It's called the Zephyr.
Zephyr.
There are many passenger trains called Zephyr across America. Zephyr is another word for wind. And these passenger trains are as fast as the wind.
Wow, that's one fast. That's the Zephyr.
Well, you kids have been a great help in showing how fun trains can be. But we're not quite through yet. Earlier, I mentioned we'd see more railroad cars later on, and now it's time. There are so many different kinds of railroad equipment that there is at least one item for each letter of the alphabet. And since this is the alphabet train, let's see them all one letter at a time. You can read along or just listen because we'll go through them twice. Auto carrier, baggage car, caboose, dining car, engine, flat car, gondola car, hopper car, interurban car, the joint between the rails, the kitchen, logging car, mail car, narrow gauge cars, observation car, passenger cars, quickly passing cars, refrigerator cars, steam locomotive, tank cars, under the car, the vestibule where you get on and off the car, water tank. X means railroad crossing, yard full of cars, and the Zephyr. Here we go. Let's see how many of them you can name on our second time around.
Auto carrier. Baggage car. Caboose. Dining car. Engine. Flat car. Gondola car.
Hopper car.
Interurban car.
The joint between the rails.
The kitchen.
Logging car. Mail car.
Mail car.
Narrow gauge cars.
Observation
car. Passenger car.
Passenger car.
Quickly passing cars. Refrigerator cars.
Refrigerator car. Steam engine. Tank car.
Under the cars.
Vestibule.
Water tank.
X. Railroad crossing.
Yard.
Yard.
Zephyr.
Zephyr.
Great job! Wow, you kids really know a lot about trains, and you really know your alphabet too. Thanks for helping. That was fun.
That was fun. I had one too.